writings, it talks about one God ultimately. They don't know that. They go to the idols. And there's a lot of ignorance, right? And this is common amongst religions and people, including Muslims. Ignorance of the teachings of what the religion says is common, right? So, so you're not going to spend hours and weeks and years and days. In some cases you might, but generally speaking, the person you come to or comes to you, they already believe in a God, something out there, a creator, a higher power, a being, superpower being, whatever you want to call it, a creator being. They believe in God already, right? So already it's not that difficult. But if you were to bring an argument to someone, say like an agnostic, right, or atheist, if you were to bring an argument about proving that the existence of a creator, how would you prove to them? What would you do? Yes, Imam Abid.
I was going to answer the question.
Oh,
I was going to let you answer it, but can you clarify agnostic?
Oh, agnostic is someone. Yeah, so sorry. So agnostic is somebody that is a bit on the fence, right? They're not sure. There could be a God, or there may not be a God. There may be a God. There may not be a God. They're on the fence. They're literally confused. Yeah, they're like, it could be there. He's not. I'm not convinced yet. Nothing's brought me over. An atheist is the one who's outright. Yeah, he's like, there is no God. Absolutely no God, right? And they vary in their flavours, guys. Don't get cliches. Don't think all atheists are Militant and Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and all these people. They're not all of that ilk, yeah? They're not all of that ilk, yeah? They vary greatly. Some are very, I can't say pro-religion, but they try to be more spiritual and kind of forbearing with religions. They're of that approach. But they vary in their flavours, right? Very, very varied. So, so that's the clue that you've got now. So this thing about proving God exists. But I want to hear your arguments. How would you prove that God exists?
Creation suggests a creator.
Excellent, my brother. That's fantastic, right? The creation suggests a creator. It's probably one of the most simple, powerful arguments. Like, look at this bottle, right? I've been enjoying the coffee. I haven't got to the water yet, right? But look at the bottle, guys. Brothers and sisters, what do you see designed features? What design features do you see? Can you name them? There's a load of them.
Shape.
Shape, yeah, look at the shape. It's like this sort of shape, yeah, like a bottle shape, right? It's not the shape of like, shape and size is similar. It's not the size of like this pillar. Imagine the bottles were that big in the shops. How would you lift it up? How would you bring it to your workplace, or you'll put it in your bag or whatever in your pocket, right? So there's a particular size and shape, yeah? Important. What else is there?
Labeling.
Labeling. Look, it's got a label. What's in there? Constitute. You can recycle it. Label, information. 500 milliliters. Information. A label. Any other designed features?
Functionality.
What do you mean by that?
The graphic
cap,
design.
The cap. Yeah. The cap is a design feature. Look, there's a cap. If I tilt it like that, it doesn't come pouring out. Yeah. Wet floor in the mosque. Next, somebody's going to be upset with you, isn't it? It's going to be a mess, right? So that's the design feature. Any others? Yes, brother.
It's a graphic design there.
Yeah, there's a graphic design. The logo. Look, there's like a red star.
The colour
Yeah.
of the bottle.
It's a what?
The colour of the bottle.
Yeah, it's like a green colour. Yeah, and also what is it? It's like transparent. Yeah, so you can see how much liquid's in there. And give me one more. Sisters are very quiet. Sisters, can you see the bottle? Yeah. What do you think design features?
Transparent.
Transparent we've covered. It's a green transparent, yeah.
It's not the writing.
Got the writing, yeah. What about this? Look, when I put it on the table.
The weight.
It's not the weight, it's like this flat bottom, yeah. There's many design features. We could talk for ages, right, about design features. But design features indicate a designer. Exactly what that brother is saying. He said the creation and the creator, yeah, that argument. You see this creation, there must be a creator. But that's just a bottle with these features. But look at the universe, look at the body, the human body, the DNA, the super complex things that Allah's made, the fantastic cosmos, the sun, the moon, the stars. Look at the creation. You telling me it came from nothing, this whole creation. I mean, the sun is a giant, essentially, the sun is a giant nuclear fusion reactor. That's what it essentially is, a giant nuclear fusion reactor. Fusion reaction is different from fission. Fission is like with the atom bomb, yeah, the nuclear bomb. That gives out megatons of energy. But fusion is where the atoms combine or join, yeah, and they give out much more energy. The nuclear reactions going on in the sun are mind-boggling. You know, these solar flares and all this stuff, it's super, super powerful stuff, right? And it's a ball of energy, basically. And if you bring it closer to the earth, the sun, what happens to us? Deserts everywhere, nothing's going to grow, we're going to die of heat death. We're going to melt, yeah? If you take it further away from us, from the earth, what's going to happen? Permanent winter. We're all going to die. Nothing will grow. There'll be no sunlight, no plants. Everything will go dark. Everything will die. We won't function. So it's, again, this is a design argument. That everything's in a perfect order. See, design and order, these are arguments you can use, right? So the order is that, there's many of these constants. Planck's constant, gravity, that's in perfect balance, strong nuclear, weak nuclear forces. There's all these constants in the universe, these laws of things, law of gravity and stuff like that. So again, they're in such precise measure that it indicates it couldn't come from nothing. It doesn't. We don't know what we believe, or even what basic philosophy. You can't even say. You don't say it's Islam. It comes in Islam as well, but it's philosophy of the basic sense, right? Nothing comes from nothing. Nothing comes from nothing, guys. It's simple philosophy.
Zero,
so simple.
0 plus 0
0 plus 0
cannot equal 1.
nothing. Absolutely nothing, guys. It's that it's such a simple line. Something cannot come from nothing, right? So we believe as Muslims that there's a creator. But what's good in your dawah is to explain who Allah is. That's the key thing. Explain who Allah is. Right? Who is He? The more you learn about Allah, and this is why it's good and important, learn His names and attributes. You know the 99 names of Allah, the books, we've got the information. This tells us about His names and attributes. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Awwalu, Al-Akhiru, Al-Ilah, Al-Qudus, Al-Qadir. There's so many beautiful names and attributes. Bring this in your dawah, because each one is super powerful. It's a perfect name of Allah. You know, for example, with a Christian, you might say, we believe in Al-Awwalu wal-Akhiru, the first and the last. That's what it means. Al-Awwalu is the first, Akhiru is the last. That's who Allah is. The first has no beginning, right? The Al-Akhiru has no ending. He doesn't die, right? So you believe, this is an argument for a Christian. I'm not saying go away from the go-rap. I'm saying wherever you can, use the go-rap, but be flexible as well. Don't be go-rap robots and just try to copy and it will fail. It will fail, right? So use it as an acronym, as a tool. But with this Christian, you might bring, I like to bring this conundrum. I say to them, to the Christian, look, at the end of the day, you believe in Christ, Jesus. We do as well. We believe in the same prophet, right? We believe he was born from Mary, immaculate conception, a miracle, miraculous birth. Surah Maryam in the Quran. So they'll agree. They're like, yeah, we believe Jesus was born, baby, had a beginning, he was born. And then he died, right? That's what they'll say. I said, we part our ways here, but you believe he died on the cross. Jesus, he was crucified, right? So he had an ending, he died. Our God definition in Islam, and it's their definition as well, because they believe in the alpha and the omega, which is awwalu akhiru, same concept, right? We're saying he can't have had this life as a God, because al-awwalu has no beginning, and akhiru has no ending. So there couldn't be a start point of Jesus, the God on the earth, and an ending of crucifixion. It doesn't make sense. Another one, al-qadir, the all-powerful, right? If you say to them, Christ, Jesus, he had to eat and drink, yeah? He had needs, physical needs. He needed to use the bathroom, right? He was a human. So God in Islam, Allah, is the all-powerful. He doesn't need water, he doesn't need food, he doesn't get tired, he doesn't need sleep, and he certainly doesn't need to use the bathroom. These are nonsense things for God. So again, from the names of attributes of Allah, you can bring your dawah. You understand? Because you're calling to Allah. So you can bring them all day long, right? You can bring many ones, different angles, different content, but bring something simple. You know, he's the most merciful. Explain the mercy of Allah. Explain that he's the first, the last, the all-powerful, the all-wise. We'll cover that in a moment about one of his names. So this is the knowledge that you guys can bring and share. So that's your argument. Here they just bought a mobile phone, I bought the bottle. But the simple design argument, as our brother at the back said, about the creation and the creator. The simple design argument, right? The mobile phone, it's got glass, it's got design features, couldn't have come from nothing. What about the universe? Even more complex than the mobile. I mean, look at the mobile, if you scratch it with a blade or a knife, you scratch it, it's finished, right? You have to go to the shop. You've got those little guys in the shop that repair the screen for you, right? But if you scratch your hand or your arm, you get a paper cut. This body, it repairs itself, doesn't it? In 20 minutes, the scratch is gone, the cut is repaired. Self-repairing machine. That's the human body, generally speaking, right? It can't repair everything, but it's so complex. I'm saying the DNA, the things going on in the body, this fantastic thing that Allah's given us as a gift, it's super complex, right? Much more than the mobile. This mobile will never be able to equal this human, right? And Allah created it. So again, it's that argument, that it couldn't come from nothing. So there's your God exists. But go back to my fundamental point, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to get you on the right page. Most people will believe in God. You won't be spending hours bringing deep scientific sun and moon and this and that. You trigger them about some science, but you don't need to go into in-depth, super long convincing, if that makes sense. Yeah. With the stubborn guys, leave them, because like I said, why do you want to again put the square peg in the round hole? If the guy's a stubborn atheist and he's not shifting from his position at all, right? Then there's no. Why give him all the time? Why give him all your time? Why? Why do that? Yeah. When there's others out there that may accept Islam. Someone may take shahada with you. Genuinely, they may say, okay, I want to accept Islam. Please help me. I want to become a Muslim, right? And you're going to get rewards for that. So that's what you should look for, the better thing to do, right? So, but obviously be nice to the person as well. Like I said, give him a gift of Quran, trigger him in the right way. You're going to get foolish people, you're going to get friendly people. It's just the mix of people out there. But most people in Dawah, from my experience, you don't get bad people, generally speaking. They're friendly, they're kind, they're generally nice. Even atheists, you may be chatting a lot of rubbish or whatever, but they don't tend to be rude or bad. That case of the woman spitting, right, is a rare case, right? Anyway, enough of that. So that's the simple design argument. So you get an agreement. Do you agree? They say, yeah, I agree, God must exist. Like I said, most people will believe in something out there. Then you move on to what is the O, the oneness. So how would you, brothers and sisters, how would you explain that God is one, the oneness of Allah? What think about the Quran and arguments and
If you have more than one, there's always going to be disagreement between
perfect, brother, perfect, excellent. That's exactly the right answer, right? So two gods, God A, God B, hypothetically. God A wants to make it rain in Hessel, right, tomorrow, and God B wants to make it sunny in Hessel, right? So what's going to happen? There's a conflict of wills immediately. A, B. If A does it, then B, was he really a god? How can there be two gods then? You know, there's only one God. It's very simple. It's very common sense, very intuitive, right? So you can't have this conflict of wills because Allah is the all-powerful. Nothing subdues His will. He's the all-powerful, right? So, so basically oneness, as Allah mentions in the Quran, had there been other gods besides Allah in the heavens and the earth, both realms would surely have been corrupted. So glorified is Allah, Lord of the throne, far above what they claim. Yeah? What's interesting in that verse, or in the part of the Quran, it's like, if you know the Arabic, it's actually saying, had there been other gods besides Allah in the heavens and the earth? Allah doesn't even give in His example the honor or dignity. He can't. It's an impossibility, right? It's a paradox, but He doesn't say that they're transcendent gods. He's saying within the heavens and the earth, these other gods. It's a hypothetical, right? Rhetorical type thing. And it shows that, look, there would be chaos, corruption, like you said, brother. Conflict of wills, chaos. There'll be disorder, nothing would function. Yeah? Gods will be at loggerheads. So there can only be one true God. Again, most people out there, most people who are honest and not disingenuous, they're not playing around, they're not mischievous, they will concede, they'll say, yeah, he must be one. Most people will say that. Some small percentage or a little on the other side, 30%, 25%, they will be like, no, I believe in, I'm very stubborn. So maybe they're Hindu and they believe in a multitude of gods. This person's stubborn, whatever. Give them dawah, give them a bit of time, give them some friendly conversation, tea, coffee, biscuit, whatever they, give them whatever they need, and then just move on to the others. The others that are open to the message. Because some people will reject, a lot will reject, yeah? So, and the link between go and rap, basically, obviously, look, people, Allah provides our physical needs, right? Clothing, food, shelter, water, physical needs are covered. Emotional needs, He provides for, right? He gives us company, wives, children, parents, friends, all of our emotional needs. What about our existence and spiritual needs? Purpose in life, right? There must be something about that in Islam. And this is what the non-Muslims ask themselves, that question, where are we going? Is there life after death? What's it all for? Why were we created? They do ask these questions, right, at some point in their life. Sometimes, not some people more often, some people really challenge it, some people very rarely after some time, but they will ask at some point, why am I here? What's going on? Why was I created? These big questions. They're really big questions of life. What's existence all about? Is there a next life? Yeah? Where are we going? What, why? There's a lot of whys. For people that don't have Islam, there's too many whys, right? Like the question of why is there suffering in the world? This is a massive one, and especially at this time. It's become very big. And unfortunately, it affects Muslims as well. The problem of evil and suffering the Muslims get weakened by it, and it's such a weak argument. You know, what does Allah say in the Quran? Shaitan's plan is weak. Shaitan is weak. He's not a strong entity. Yeah, he doesn't have power of compared to Allah. What is he compared to Allah? Shaitan's plan is weak. He whispers, he moves away, he tries a stratagem, they'll try to deceive, they'll try to make you despair, but he's weak. His plan is weak. So the problem of evil and suffering basically is an age-old problem. It's known as theodicy in philosophy, but it's an old problem where they say, look, your God is all merciful and he's all powerful. Allah is all merciful, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and he's Al-Qadir, the all powerful, right? But then why is there evil and suffering in the world? If he's all merciful, why did he send the tsunami? Where was the mercy then? And at the same time, if he's all powerful, why doesn't he stop the tsunami? If he sends it, why doesn't he stop it last minute, make it calm water? Yeah, Al-Qadir, the all powerful. That's the conundrum they try to bring. All merciful, all powerful. That's what they bring. And how would you guys answer it, just out of interest? I mean, there's different answers you can give. There's not one set in gold answer, set in stone answer, right? But how would you answer it?
With the other names of Allah.
Perfect, brother. That's exactly the answer I was looking for, mashallah. Yeah? The other names, Al-Hakim. Precisely. Look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim. Yeah? In Surah Qamar, verse 5, Allah talks about his wisdom, or the attribute, as a hikmat al-baligha, a divine, all-encompassing wisdom from Al-Hakim. So Allah's got the complete picture, the whole total view. Like I said, the past, the present, the future, and what would have happened had something had happened differently. Every angle, every view, right? We've only got the pixel. We've only got the pixel. Allah's got the picture. So with this apparent, so where there's wisdom, like the brother said, from other names and attributes, also Al-Adil, the most just. Where there's evil and suffering, there's justice behind it. We know there's justice because Allah is the most just, right? We're not saying evil is good, and Allah didn't create absolute evil. There's no absolute evil, right? Everything's got a slant, or not a slant, but like there's no absolute evil, basically. It's basic theology of Islam. There's no absolute evil. Somebody might say, well, what about Shaitan? He's absolute evil. He wants you to go to Jahannam. He calls people to kufr all day long. What about Shaitan? He's absolute evil. The thing is, even in his history, there was a time where he was a pious worshipper. I think the hadiths or the narrations talk about there wasn't a handspan in Jannah where he didn't do sajda. So he was a pious worshipper. But then he fell. Yeah, he became lowly, arrogant, rejected. Right. So the point is, where there's wisdom, Al-Hakim, it indicates reasons. There's good reasons for this suffering, or this apparent evil and suffering. So the tsunami, when it comes, what happens if they're Muslims and they drown? Shaheed. If there's a Muslim and he drowns, he's shaheed. If he dies in a fire, shaheed. If the lady dies giving birth to the child, shaheed, right? There's so many cases, the one who is murdered unjustly, he's killed unjustly, martyr, yeah? There's so many of these cases, right? The building that collapses on them, the stomach illness, the plague, the corona, all this mercy from Allah. It looks like, oh, it's evil and suffering, tsunami, they're all drowning, or the little child has got cancer and he's dying, right? He's only 10 years old and he died of cancer. It looks on the outset, it looks like gratuitous, pure evil and suffering. But there's no such thing as pure evil. And what I like to bring in the Dawah, especially is good for online and face-to-face or whatever, or someone that's a bit, not, there's little time, you know, where you give a soundbite, a sticky example, right? I like to say, if there was no evil, you wouldn't know what good is. If there was no evil, you wouldn't know what good is. And in every time I've used that line, for the last over 10 years that I've ever used that line, nobody has countered it. Nobody said, no, but this and that, and there's nothing. They can't say anything to that, right? So this problem of evil and suffering is big at the time, and people use it as an excuse to not worship Allah, not to come to Islam. Especially like atheists, right? They're like, I don't know, I was 12 years old, and my both parents died in a car crash. God did it, so therefore, you know, they try to blame God. They're called mesotheists. They blame everything on God. They have an anger towards God, and that's their reason for not worshipping Allah or accepting Islam, right? So it's a very weak argument. Yeah, you have to explain life is a test. That's why evil is created. Is who's going to go and do evil and who's going to do good. We've got two choices, haven't we? As Muslims, we can do evil or we can do good. So this is very important, very, very critical that we understand this problem. And going back now further on the go-wrap. So now the revelation. So what are we talking about? The Quran. How would you guys explain the Quran to a non-Muslim? Someone who's now believed that God exists. Most people will anyway. Someone's now believed God is one. uniquely one that's important. Now you're talking about the Quran. What would you talk about? What would you say?
Say instruct.
Excellent, brother. That's one of the easiest ways to explain it, yeah? So what you do, you explain that when you buy a gadget, you buy a new iPhone or some gadget, right? What do you call it? Computer system, some television system, whatever these systems are, these gadgets, right? You buy a gadget and you get an instruction manual in the box. Yeah, it tells you, charge it like this, program it like this, don't expose to this temperature, this is the fuse plug size, everything. All the dimensions are there, the do's and don'ts, the instructions, everything. So the Quran is an instruction manual, as our brother said, but for human beings, isn't it? Same thing, same concept, but for human beings. So now the non-Muslim, he can't read Arabic, he doesn't know reading the Quran, nothing. Now he's got a concept of what the Quran is, an instruction manual for human beings. So something will click with him, now he'll think, oh, I see. So then you can explain that, add the detail to the skeleton. You can explain that obviously there's do's and don'ts, there's prohibitions and commands, but remember only 3% of the Quran is these prohibitions and rulings and do's and don'ts. The rest of it, as in general commands, is things about morals, conduct, honesty, manners, the way the way your morals are basically, right? Your character, your being. That's what the bulk of the Quran is about. The don't eat pork, don't gamble, don't take interest. These prohibitions is 3% of the Quran. So some people think, we've got so many don'ts in Islam, or can't eat pork, can't drink alcohol, can't deal in interest, can't gamble, and they try to make all this long list of you can't do this, and they try to say you Muslims are, or they perceive Muslims as like kind of like oppressed, yeah, or backward, right? They think you're stuck, you need a very oppressive religion, and there's all these barriers, right? Even take the pork, right? The meat that you can't eat. How many meats are there out there that we can eat? Loads, isn't there? And meats you've probably never eaten in your life. Ostrich, veal, this one, venison. There's so many meats out there that people probably haven't tried, that they maybe even like it and find it better than pork, if that makes sense. There's only one meat that we can't eat. Actually Allah's freeing us from many problems by telling us what are the bad ones, and you've got all the rest which are good, right? Does that make sense? So it's a weak argument, right? That you're restricted, and it's actually Allah gives you freedom because you submit your will to the will of Allah, and He gives you the guidance and the freedom, the purpose in life. Yeah, you're guided, isn't it? You're protected from. Imagine you drink alcohol and you die in a car crash, or you become addicted and you're on the streets, you lose your house, your family, the addiction to drugs and the problem. You're on the streets, you're in a mess, right? So you're protected from these things if you follow Islam properly. So Quran, just bring it as much as you can in your dawah. Wherever you can, whenever you can, however you can. Bring Surah Ikhlas, recite it, explain it. He is, say He is Allah the One, the absolutely eternal, does not beget, nor was He begotten, and there's nothing like unto Him. Bring it, just bring the Quran, play the Quran. If you have a box, speaker box or something, play some audible Quran. There's a man out there somewhere, watch the YouTube clip, I'll try and find it. It's been about 6 to maybe 8 years since I've played this clip, right? But there's a man out there and he says, I don't get peace any time in my life from this one thing that I do. So he's got the satellite system at home, the skybox, and he goes to the Quran channel. He's an English guy. He leads an ordinary life. He works, he's got family. He puts on the Quran and he goes, I get a feeling of peace I cannot get it from nothing else in my life. He admitted, he's made a full video on YouTube. He admitted, he totally talked about it. Very frank guy, very friendly guy, and he told them that's what happens when I put the Quran on, Quran channel, I go to Quran channel, I get that peace, that feeling of serenity, peace, tranquility, that sakina. He gets it from, he can't explain it, and he gets it from nothing in his life. Only the Quran brings it. So the Quran, and give out obviously English translated meanings of the Quran. That's not actually the Quran, is it? The English translated meaning of the Quran, that's not the Quran. The Quran is in Arabic. Quran is the Mus'haf, yeah, in Arabic. That is the Quran. But they're not going to be able to read that, right? And obviously non-Muslims are not allowed to touch the Mus'haf anyway, right? It's in Arabic, right? So you give them the English translated meanings of the Quran, they can benefit from that because it's in their language, right? So don't feel shy with Quran in the Dawah. It goes without saying, we know how powerful the Quran is, right? We know it's the miracle, it's a timeless book, it's a perfect book, unchanged. It's the guidance. It's beautiful. It's from Allah. It's a gift from Allah, and it's the biggest miracle from all the prophets, right? So bring it in many different forms, many different ways.
I think
Even
it's
me, myself,
I think it's important to mention, that the Quran is the completion of the deen itself.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
and
all the,
where we've got the other,
the final testament.
that's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, but you sometimes get the argument of that
Yeah.
they've got their book as well. But
Yeah.
like yourself, I come from the IT field as well, and we have different versions of documents, different versions of software.
Yes.
Well, Quran is the latest version and the final version.
Yes.
You're not gonna you're not gonna go to the previous. Exactly. You're not gonna go to the previous version and run your software off that. You're going to use the latest one, and that always gets them thinking.
Good way of putting it. A good way for like scientific people to understand. Yeah, exactly. But look, for different people, there'll be different things that trigger them. Somebody will hear the adhan in a Muslim country. Somebody will hear the Quran, and they'll become, convinced that Islam is true. For me, this was about 27 years ago. This was February 1995, which was a Ramadan. I was in the University of Essex, and I was a non-practicing Muslim. I was born in a Muslim family, of course. I was a non-practicing Muslim. I had never prayed 5 times a day in my life, right? Ever. And I was in university. And I picked up a timetable. You know, one of the typical timetables, you get them in the mosque, the white sheet with all the times on it. And I picked it up because I was keeping a very coarse version of fasting. Fasting, but it was almost like a pointless fast. All I wanted to know is when is the Maghrib time. Remember, this is February 1995, Ramadan. There's no internet. The only internet that existed, as the IT brother said, was on some mainframe kind of systems, these Sun, Unix, Spark systems, right? It was the early internet. Because the internet, the military used to have the internet in the past, and then it came into the mainstream, right? So on the timetable was one verse of the Quran in Arabic and in English. And for me, that was a main trigger catalyst, main thing that pushed me over the edge. That one verse of the Quran, every time I say this story, someone always puts their hand up and says, what was that verse of the Quran, right?
What was that verse of the Quran?
Thank you, Imam Hafiz. I was waiting for that question, right? Then you always get that question, but I don't, unfortunately, I never kept the timetable. I don't remember the verse, but I do know it definitely had the word Lord in it, and that was one of the main triggers, Lord. Because we say Rabb, Lord, right? But Lord, obviously, is not a word that you use much in this day and age. Who says the word Lord in mainstream speech? You don't really use that word. It's Lord of House of Commons, Lord this, that, and it's very rare. So for me, it stuck out on the timetable. It really struck a chord. It was like, why is this word Lord here? Lord, what does Lord mean? And I started contemplating. I started thinking, pondering, thinking, reading that verse. I read it over and over, and I couldn't got this understanding. And it changed me from, like I say, non-practicing Muslim into practicing Muslim. So that the changeover. Of course, there was other factors. You're never going to get Dawah in a tunnel. It's not going to be one thing that triggers someone. Even if someone says that to you, that's not true. Because life is 3D, it's complex, there's things going on. You might hear media content about Islam, you might have Muslim friends, you might see halal meat shop, there's many things going on. So it wasn't one thing. Like there's other factors as well. But the timetable, the Quran, I'm trying to emphasize, explain to you guys, was a main trigger. It was a catalyst for me. It really pushed me over the edge, right? So this is the power of the Quran. Imagine that was one verse of the Quran in English. Imagine what the whole Quran English translation copy of the Quran could do. Imam Abid, did we send you copies of the Quran from the warehouse?
You send me many boxes.
Okay, and maybe
those
there's
Qurans are there.
Okay, no problem. I mean, even those books that we've sent, they'll have verses in there, like in English, right? So it's there, right? The content, the knowledge. But this is what I'm trying to emphasize the point, and I think it's in Surah Nur. Allah talks about Nurun ala Nur in Surah Nur. So the Nurun ala Nur, the first Nur he's talking about is revelation, Nur, the Nur of revelation. Ala Nur, upon the other Nur, impacts the fitrah. So the revelation, the Quran, impacts the fitrah. It wakes people up. You know, we heard the stories of the Sahaba when they secretly heard the Quran or overheard the recitation of Quran, and their hearts flew. They wanted to accept Islam. They accepted Islam like this when they heard it. Yeah. So this is the beauty of Islam and the Quran. You know, you can explain many angles. It hasn't changed in 1400, 1500 years. A timeless book. No inconsistencies. Nothing nonsensical in there. Only goodness and benefit for humans. Right. A clear message who God is, preservation. Allah said, He swears that He will preserve the Quran. It's not going to ever change or disappear. All this amazing stuff in the Quran. Now, prophethood. What would you talk about, brothers and sisters, about prophethood? Like the prophets. What would you mention in your dawah? So remember, it started with someone asked you a difficult question. I gave extreme examples in the difficult one, but someone asked you a question you don't necessarily want to answer it. You may because it's about reading the person. It's psychology. Dawah is psychology. You read the person, and you may answer the question, or you may even answer it partly or fully, and still do the go-rap. Yeah. So the go-rap's your tool. So you've gone through G. God. He agrees that God exists. He agrees that God is one. He's understood the Quran. He's accepted that. Now he's on to the prophets, right? Prophethood. So what I would always kind of bring is, I'd say there was many prophets but one message. Many prophets but one message, and that explains the previous religions. Because some people will be like, what about Christianity? You can't just chuck it all away, and who was Isa and this and that, and Musa alayhi salam, and all this kind of questions, right? From the first prophet, there's always been that message of Islam. So many prophets, they all said, believe and worship one God. None of them said, for example, worship me, or a statue, or anything else, right? So pure Tawheed, basically, right? So many prophets, one message. Specifically, and I mentioned it earlier, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that has 3 or 4. I know the guys at Dawah, Hamza Maya, and these guys, they like to bring 4 possibilities. Either he was lying, or a liar, deluded. So delusion is where you speak falsehood thinking it's true. You speak falsehood, but you think it's true. That's delusional. Or he was truthful. So we know he was truthful. We know the answer. It's a rhetoric, right? But why could he not be a liar? What's a good kind of proof that
Because he never lied before.
he never lied before. He never lied ever in his history of his life. In all the hadith and everything, there's no indication of a lie, or even hint of a lie, or intention of a lie. He never lied. So build on that, brother. Build on that concept.
Because he claimed that he is a prophet.
Yes.
So it's very easy if he's a liar, people will find out.
Good.
Because everybody will focus on him.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
if he's a liar, people will find out.
People would find out. They would know. Yeah. And what was his nickname?
Allah.
Sadiq al-Amin. Yeah. In the history of Prophet Muhammad.
Another thing is, during his time, when he claimed his prophethood, there is no one that challenged.
No one could
That
challenge
thing.
that. No one could challenge that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. He was a
There is
truthful
no one
person.
that challenged that
It's
thing.
clear cut. You know, from the hadith and all the knowledge that we've got, there's no indication of a lie. We would know, like the brother was saying, the close people around, the family, the history would be recorded that he lied or he was a character of a liar. He didn't have that character, right? Deluded. Why could he not be deluded? They're speaking falsehood, thinking it's true.
Prophecy.
Prophecy. Excellent, brother. Who said that? Brother again, mashallah. Excellent, brother. He's answering the questions really accurately. So, mashallah. So, look, prophecy. Look at the buildings, right? In the Burj Khalifa, Dubai, it's 828 meters tall. And this hadith talks about the barefooted, unclothed Bedouins will compete in the construction of tall buildings. They'll be racing to compete, right? In Saudi Arabia, they're trying to build a 1 kilometer Jeddah tower. And 50 years ago, these were exactly that description, the Bedouins. Yeah, they didn't have anything. Then the oil came along. You could say the black gold, the oil, gave them the super wealth, and they were able to build these tall buildings and construct and do all this stuff. In fact, at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some of the Quraysh, the people, the Arabs, would actually build into the ground. They would build into the ground. Yeah, why did they do that? Because it's the desert and it's hot, the sun, and it's cooler in the basements to build underground the property like that. So the prophecy was saying that these Bedouins will build tall buildings taller than mountains, like tall skyscraper type buildings, really tall. And these people at the time, they didn't have what do you call that thing, scaffolding, JCB diggers, construction, that stuff. They didn't have any of that, right? So it was an amazing prophecy, and it came true. And so many prophecies have come true. So if he was speaking falsehood, thinking it's true, then how come the prophecies have come true? How come the Quran is perfect? If he had a revelation of 23 years and he was delusional, the Quran would have contradictions in it straight away. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't add up. It would have inconsistencies, contradictions, but it only brings good benefit for people. So there's no way this person, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sorry, there's no way Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could be delusional. It's a nonsense argument. In fact, you know what it is, brothers and sisters, you can only be truthful. In fact, if somebody is going to make the claim, I'll just quickly in 5 minutes give you this kind of a social experiment, right? If somebody is going to claim that he was a liar, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a liar, by default they have to, or if they reject him, you know, they say he wasn't a true prophet, he didn't exist, they're going to reject him, right? If they're going to reject him, say he's a liar, he's a false prophet, false person, they have to by default reject that their mother is their mother. By default, that individual has to first reject that their mother is their mother. Why is that, brothers and sisters? I'll explain why. Because if I ask you now, give me some proofs that your mother is your mother. Give me some proofs that your mother is your mother. You'll only come up with about 7 or 8 proofs, because you can't go beyond that. There's not 20 proofs, there's not 30 proofs, there's only a set, finite, small number of proofs. So give me one proof that your mother is your mother. Come on guys, we're talking about your mother.
DNA.
DNA. Take the blood sample, read it, match it to yours. DNA. That's a good proof. Any others?
Then people told me.
Yeah, the doctor told me, my mum, my dad told me, my uncle told me, the nurse told me, yeah, someone told me. Was that, you know, birth certificate? No, that's good, bro. That's a proof, isn't it? Birth certificate says the mother's name, father's name, child's name. Right, that's the third one. Like I say, you'll only come up with about 7. Yeah, the resemblance looks like this guy, right? Look, basically, I won't go through all 7 or 8. The other ones will be like photographic evidence, you know, or video evidence, the baby being born or whatever. All of these evidences that you're bringing, they're valid, they're proofs, right? However, they all surmount to one type of knowledge. See, in today's day and age, they may try to tell you that science is the most robust knowledge. That's the big narrative for the last 30 years. Especially since I was going through school, it was the evolution model and Darwinism, all this is big, right? But they try to paint in your mind that science is the most powerful, robust source of knowledge in today's world. If you want the best job in the world, doctor, computer programmer, you know, NASA engineer, all these sort of jobs, it's about science, and they paint it out to be this big thing. But science is elegant. Muslims invented the scientific method. It's beautiful, it's powerful. We respect it in that sense. It's elegant, but it's got its limitations, right? It can tell you the why. It can tell you the how, but never the why. How is the laptop made? But why? Is Murtaza going to come from London and do some Dawah course? It'll never tell you the why, right? It doesn't give you absolute truths. That's another limitation of science. It's not a flaw, it's a limitation. It doesn't lead to absolute truths. It's always some theory. It's dynamic, it's in flux, yeah? One theory now will be overridden in 100 years or 1,000 years, right? It's amoral. If someone is stabbing someone to take their money, to mug them, to crime, that morally is evil, isn't it? Killing someone or hurting someone. But if someone takes a knife, a scalpel, and does a heart transplant, cutting them, but morally, it's brilliant. You're saving someone's life after the help of Allah, permission of Allah. So it's amoral, it can't register morals. And there's many of these things. I don't want to get into the philosophy, I haven't studied it in depth anyway, but there's many limitations that put science in its place. Where do we get most of our knowledge from? The bulk majority of our knowledge. Where does it come from? 99% of your knowledge comes from a particular source. I don't mean Quran and Sunnah, I mean a type
History.
of... Which one?
History.
Not history, no.
Your mother.
No, no. It's back to the mother.
Google.
Which one?
Google.
Google is like a source type thing, but I mean
Nature.
Not nature, no.
Your mind.
Book.
There's one word that starts with T.
Teacher.
Not teacher.
Time.
No, it can be either written or spoken. What is that known as when someone...
Theory.
Which one?
Theory.
Transmission.
Very close.
What language is the word?
English. It's in English, yeah. Starts with T and ends in Y.
Theory.
Testimony. Testimony, guys. Authentic testimony is where we get most of our knowledge, right? Either written or oral. You read something or someone tells you. Where's China? Does it exist? It's testimony, right? All those examples you gave of your mother is your mother, those proofs that your mother is your mother, every single one you gave is testimony. The DNA, Imam Abid, can you do the DNA test? Are you a doctor as well? Can you do the DNA test? No, you can't, right? I thought you may be a doctor and Imam. Right? You got a doctor next to you, right? So you can't do it, but you know someone else that can, or tells you how to read the results or the test or whatever. Testimony is telling you this is how you do it. These are the buttons to press on the computer and the blood drop and all of that. It's testimony. The birth certificate is testimony, written testimony. It could be fake. It could be someone faked the document, right? The guy is telling you, you know, the doctor told me, my mum told me, my dad told me. Testimony. It's testimonial evidence, right? The video evidence, still someone has to tell you this is you as a child being born. And in all honesty, that little baby coming out born, covered in blood, screaming and crying, and then there's a 6-foot brother with a big dari, a big beard, and he's got a thobe and everything. You know, it doesn't prove too much. But anyway, the point is it's still testimony. All of the 6 or 7 or 8 of the proofs that you give that your mother is your mother are all testimony. Right? Is everyone with me so far? It's all testimony. The testimony for Prophet Muhammad being a true person, a truthful man, a true prophet, the weight or volume of his testimony, it smashes the one of your mother is your mother. That's because of the science of hadith. Yeah, that you've got chains of narrators. They checked everyone in the chain, the testimony, the honesty of the person, the memorization, the memory skill, what they did, what they got. You know, the corpus of hadith, the science of hadith is so robust. If you're going to reject Prophet Muhammad, throw him out of the picture, you have to reject your mother by default, because the testimonial evidence is a dot compared to Prophet Muhammad. And this little thought experiment was done on someone, it was a Greek guy, and he went through all the steps and he believed in Allah, he accepted everything apart from Prophet Muhammad, and then he was told you have to reject your mother. But this person was very much like respectful and loving his mother. And when this experiment was done, he accepted, he became a Muslim. When he understood the testimony and he did his research, whatever, explained it, he became a Muslim through this testimonial argument. Now you don't have to bring this argument, I'm not saying you bring this in your dawah necessarily. I gave you that to explain that it doesn't make any sense that Prophet Muhammad was lying or a liar, could not have been deluded. We've proven it with prophecy and the Quran. He could only be truthful. But what you can bring in your dawah is all the amazing things. You know, the things like, I think it's in my slides, it's not in the slides, but you know, the many things I explained earlier. Look how he was to the orphans, the elderly. He was truthful and trustworthy. He looked after even the environment, the trees. He didn't, vandalize things, or like people chop down trees and ruin the environment. He was an environmentalist. Looked after the animals, the cats, the dogs, the birds. He didn't hurt them. His character, it shone. Yeah. So you can explain this. You can say, look, he was a truthful person. This is how his character was. These are the things he did, and you can bring that knowledge to the non-Muslim, right, in your dawah. So that's how you explain prophethood. We focus on Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but we talk about all the prophets. And if you can go through the go-wrap like that, explaining these points, this will be of benefit, inshallah. Obviously, finally, after you've done it all, maybe someone wants to take Shahada. From my experience, don't be shy to take the Shahada. Because like I said to you earlier, a lot of non-Muslims, they don't know you can say Shahada. They don't know, they confess that later on. They're like, I became a Muslim, but no Muslim told me that I could become a Muslim by saying some words. I never knew. The Muslims seem to be shy away from it. At the same time, keep a balance. We don't want what we call trophy shahadas. Trophy shahadas are like, this guy came, he said the kalima, the shahada, and then it's like, where is he now? Don't even get his number, don't know where he is he gone back to Christianity? Who is he? Where has he gone? These are trophy shahadas, the weak ones, yeah? Because there's a verse in the Quran where Allah says in Surah Muhammad, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ. Know that none has the right to be worshipped except for Allah alone, and then seek forgiveness for your sins. The fa'lam, that first bit of the verse, in Arabic, is the fi'l amr. It's the command tense. It's a command to know. You have to have knowledge of the shahada. Shahada is not just words that you can say with no meaning. There has to be understanding of what it means. You have to know what it means, right? There's 7 conditions, or 8, some scholars say 7 or 8 conditions of the shahada. Sincerity, acceptance, muhabba, love, certainty, many of these different ones, right? So the point is, it's got to be credible. You can't just make someone make that noise, the sounds of the shahada, the speech, and then they don't commit to it, they don't understand, they don't start praying. This would be a weak trophy shahada. So keep a balance in the middle. Offer them Islam, offer them shahada, help them in your capacities wherever you are, but obviously don't rush and force and just get the weak shahadas either. This thing's going to be nonsense. And there's many different reasons people accept as well. Sometimes this can be a relationship thing. Someone's got a girlfriend or boyfriend, right, and they want to become Muslim and this and that. There's different things going on. But let people accept. Yeah, that's my point. Don't keep it in the dark. Don't keep them in the dark. Don't keep them mystified. Explain this is how you become a Muslim. Because a lot of them don't know. They don't know the process is to say Shahada and you become Muslim. So if they don't know, they're never going to accept, if that makes sense. Right? So I will end there, brothers and sisters. I've gone through the main crux of the course. I will probably now, before I forget, share the notes with Imam Abid. So if anyone wants the notes to brush up, then please ask him. And if there's any final questions before we finish for the day, you can ask questions now. Just related to the Dawah course, any Dawah tips, any Dawah content.
What do you think of setting up Dawah stalls
within the city? Or
I think it's brilliant, Imam Abid. I think it's excellent. Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to get into the deep arguments about, you know, how many shahadas and this and that. Is it effective? It's effective if you come out regularly. If you do it for maybe 1 or 2 years or short duration, right? It's not effective. Well, it's got some effect. It's dawah. At the end of the day, it's rewardable. But if you do it long term and you're consistent and they see you every week, they know the Muslims are out there Saturday every time. Hull Town Centre. I think I passed through the town centre when I saw it. It looks like a brilliant, pedestrianised, perfect for dawah. Have a little table, have a small, you can get a small Quran thing, don't play it very loud, have some Quran playing, have your books, have your Qurans, be there regularly. If you can get a regular team, if any brothers want to step up and become a team member, then yes, I encourage it. And it will help you it will help your dawah in other ways as well. So you'll be doing the street dawah, getting that exposure, but then you'll be in the flow of arguments, and then you'll want to do like a mosque open day and an exhibition and that sort of stuff. You'll want to do it.
I think even with our open days, we advertise them. I send messages to interfaith groups and church. We don't really get too many people coming to the masjid as we do in other cities.
Okay.
And also Hull is known for, it's got a bit of a reputation with regards to certain parts of Hull where Muslims, even now, they probably don't really feel too comfortable going.
Okay.
And there's quite, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a bit of a fear about setting up stalls, especially in the town centres and so on. You mentioned one story of somebody spitting in the person's face, but I think those who grew up in Hull, they know that you probably get a lot more than that in Hull. Yeah,
Hull was like that.
The reputation wise, I mean, it's changed a lot in the last 10 years, but less than 10 years I was away, it's changed, but generally speaking, so I think there is a bit of a fear, but I think one of the points you mentioned was ikhlas, sincerity, but I would say another important one, unless I missed it, is consistency.
Consistency,
As we know the hadith that talks about the most beloved act to Allah is the one madama wa in qalb, which is consistent, regular, even if it's something small, even if it's half an hour or 10 minutes in the town centre, whatever, if it's consistent.
Yeah, it definitely is a brilliant thing to do. You know, some brothers, they started it, they stopped. It varies. You know, I go to many stores across the UK, East Ham, somewhere up north, anywhere, Burton, all these different locations down far as Cornwall, and you know, they vary in their operability and how effective. They vary a lot, but you'll be surprised. It's like there's a particular part of London. Again, it's not the most sort of best part of London, East Ham area. It's a bit, you know, a lot of crime and stuff like that. But the dawah is super effective there. You know, there's people that come to a certain brother there, and they always remember him, and he gets some free water because the shop where he does the dawah, they give all the free supplies. So he can give out water bottles and cakes and everything. And people come, they get food, and it's so powerful. His dawah.
I think you need competent people as well, though. I think confident is one, but competent at the same time, where the difficult questions are asked. Alhamdulillah, we've got people in the room as well as other massages and imams here and there, but I think if we can give a bit of time, I think it would be a good initiative.
I think it would be good, Imam.
And I think Hull is at a stage where it's needed.
We'll support you in it. We'll support you from our angle, IERA. We'll come up, we'll come back, we'll join you on the street dawah, help launch the table, the team.
No, I found some specialists, alhamdulillah, within the city who actually specialise in dawah.
Really?
There's a few brothers who do classes here, but also others who are in the background.
Okay.
So I think it's a good initiative. We just need volunteers, I think. And not every volunteer needs to be the spokesperson.
Yeah.
It's more setting up, doing the
bits,
inviting, and then any tough questions pass on to somebody who's a bit more knowledgeable.
No, you need that. You definitely need that. You need a team. I mean, the team, the way, from my experience, the more brothers you have, the better. Not that you bring out 10 brothers into the street. I don't mean that. What I mean is if you've got a base of brothers of, say, 12 or 15, then you can rotate them. You can say that you 3 come out this week, next week you take a rest. Because you know what it is? People get burnt out. And when people do start the street dawah project, they start very enthusiastic. They're like, I'll come out every week now for the next so many months or years. And it doesn't happen, brother Imam Abid, it doesn't happen, right? What happens is they fizzle out. They stop after 6 months, the table's finished, no one's there. Because something happens, someone's got to travel, someone's got an invite somewhere, someone's got unwell, they've got flu or something, right? Allah protect, they're not well. So something happens that it stops it. So if you've got a bigger base of brothers all volunteer, then you can pick and choose and have more consistency. Anyway, brothers, there's any final questions? Yes.
So we said that we will get difficult questions.
Yes.
Everyone is not able to handle those questions. What is a smart way to pick away from those questions or divert people from those questions.
That is the technique, brother. That's the go route. If you use the go route, then you can avoid the difficult question. There's no way you can stop the difficult questions. People will ask with different intentions. Some people are mischievous. They just want to catch you out. Some people, their intention is different. They're just confused. They've been listening to the media and the Islamophobes. They've got so much baggage now. It's kind of brainwashing. And they've come to you and they've just got this baggage that they start reading out. This daft question, this kind of cliche, this one, that one. They think that's the thing to ask. Yeah, some people are innocent and good. They're just asking real questions. They don't know what question to ask, but they're asking ones that they've heard and they think they're relevant ones, right? Because they're big in the media or whatever, and that's where they're getting their knowledge from. So there's different intentions why they ask them difficult questions. But if you study the notes, you don't have to challenge and answer those questions head on. If you use the go-up approach, bring it back to the basics in a clever way, friendly approach. You know, it's about reading the person in the Dawah, psychology. Be friendly with them. Be like their best friend within 10 seconds. That's the trick of the Dawah. Become their best friend within 10 seconds. A lot of non-Muslims are in a spiritually dark place. They don't have the light of Islam. They don't have salah. They don't have dua. They don't have dhikr. They don't have brotherhood. They don't have a million things that we've got. We've got the perfect religion. And they're very, very lacking. So the world that they're in can be a dark place. And when they come to you and they hear a little bit about Islam or some facet or some element, or they see this in you, like for example hygiene, the hygiene things these guys follow, they seem to be clean people, this and they're observing. So just use your wisdom, brother, and just tackle them like that. Nobody asked the typical question, who created God? I'm surprised nobody asked that one. How would you guys answer that one? Who created God?
Because if someone creates God, there has to be someone above God. That's the ultimate point.
Okay. Is that how you would answer it though? You know what it is, brothers? Go on, what would you say, brother?
That's alright. I think maybe you mentioned some things like this during your speech. You don't need to answer wrong question.
Good. That's the point. You don't need to answer the difficult or wrong question. See, with this question, it's not the thing you've got to understand, brothers. Who created God is not a question. I'll explain what I mean, right? If someone asked me that question, somebody did about 4 to 5 months ago in Canterbury in an exhibition open day in the mosque. He was a fire guy, from the fire staff. Right? He asked the question, who created God? And my reply to him is, and I would judge the person again and the situation, but I replied to him, where in your house is the square circle? Where in your house is the square circle? To make him understand and think out of the box, this is not a valid question. Yeah. Who created God? Islamically, what you're asking, according to Islamic theology, who created the uncreated creator? Yeah, is what you're asking. So created and uncreated, they negate each other. You're asking zero. You're not asking, it's not a question. It's a nonsensical statement of nonsense. And a lot of the time is baggage. People are carrying baggage. They think, oh, maybe I'll catch out the Christian or the Muslim by asking what seems to be a clever, sneaky question. So they kind of slip it in there, who created God? And they think they're being clever or whatever, and they think they've caught you out now. But the longer answer is the one that you were indicating, brother. I don't want to get too deep now, especially now it's going to be prayer time soon, but the infinite regress. I don't know if you heard of it in philosophy, but if someone asks the question, who created God? What's the next question you can ask? Who created the God? That created the God, yeah. Who created the God? That created the God. And then you can go on for infinity. Who created the God? That created the God? That created the God. If this goes on for infinity, the infinite regress, then you would never have a creation. Yeah? You'd never have a creation, but it's here. We know the creation is here.
Instead of not answering it, could you not just say, God could not be created?
Yeah, of course you
could.
Finishes it. Of course it would. Of course you could, yeah. That finishes it, yeah? It depends on the person who you're talking to, yeah? If you want to get them to really be shocked out, then you may say to them, where in your house is a square circle? If you want to shock them a bit, yeah? As in to get them thinking a bit, right? Like Imam Abid said, a very valid point, tell them straight, no, God can't be, he's uncreated. Yeah, exactly. Look, Allah has existed before time, space and matter. Allah has existed before time, space and matter. He's eternal and absolute. They're names and attributes of Allah. He's eternal and absolute. He has no beginning, he has no end. He's an uncreated creator. That's the key thing in Islam, an uncreated creator.
Quick question, sir. Do you have an experience of giving dawah to homeless?
I have a little bit, but they're not a vast amount. But some homeless people, with the homeless, it's like what it says in Islam, if someone's in a difficult way, financially, poverty and difficulties, right, then for them to remain on Islam may become a struggle. And that's the issue with them. Look, at the end of the day, brothers, it's for you guys to support these people. You know, these new Muslims, we've got the mentoring system. You can give us your reverts, no problem. We'll pair them up. Like in London, there was a homeless man. He accepted Islam with one of my friends. He's homeless, right?
Okay.
But my friend, he's like a businessman. And he's got a shop, you know, like a pizza shop. Yeah? And what he did is, he took the homeless man who took Shahada and he put him in the shop. So what are the 3 things he's got straight away in the shop? Food, shelter, and he's on the tills working the money. He's got income. So he went from homeless to having a stable job, shelter, security, good news. Because my friend was a businessman, he was able to do it. I'm not saying everyone's got businesses and this and that necessarily. What I'm saying is you support them how you can, the particular individual. You've got knowledge. You can teach them the prayers, the wudu, the knowledge, Islamic knowledge. Maybe you've got other things you can counsel, advise, whatever, help. Yeah. With the homeless, they need a lot of that. They need that support. They need the prayer, that goes without saying. They need to know how to make wudu, all of it. But they need the off the street support is what they need. Yeah. And that is like, that's not easy. That's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy. But that's not that you don't take their shahada, you don't help them. But you've got to think long term like that. How do you get them off the streets? That's what it is with homeless. Yeah. So I think we can end if there's no other questions. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you, brothers and sisters, everybody, for letting me come to Hull and give the course. Abid, I gave very short notice. I said, let's do an open day. I was rushing in to do this Dawah project, being eager, and you guys very kindly invited me. It's my honour to come here to Hull, especially after such a long time. I came many years ago. And I pray, inshallah, that Allah accepts our endeavours, our small efforts of Dawah. And tomorrow is very successful as an open day. Even if one person comes and listens to one message, all of us were contributing to that effort. Yeah, we all came, we set up and made the open day as best as we could, inshallah. Yeah.
Again, thank you to all the brothers and the sisters for coming, but especially for Brother Murtaza. Remember him and his family in du'as, and also tomorrow if you're free, we're starting 11, we're finishing at 4. Just a bit of advice from yourself.